Hi, and welcome to the Golden Age Report. We just wanted to quickly update our Russian alliance chart before we get started. We bumped up both Belarus and Iran on our chart half a star. Belarus because they were mobilizing 50,000 troops and could possibly invade Kiev at any moment. Then Iran because of these surprising attacks that took place on US-backed Kurds, both in Iraq and Syria the other night. And finally, we're just going to add Turkey over here for now, as they continue to trend that way. We know they're officially NATO, but it seems more and more like that won't be the case much longer. These attacks on US-backed Kurds, along with the recent allegations that the US was behind the latest terrorist attacks, was enough to add them here for now. At number 13 in the world power rankings, they are certainly a force to be reckoned with. Now we're going to move on to our regular show. We're going to start out in the UK, looking at this Kiev war support campaign they've launched. Next we're going to look at Ukraine and the Donetsk front that's cracking. Then out of Russia, we have the aftermath of the latest missile barrage. Then out of Turkey, we had attacks on the Kurds in Syria and Iraq. And then we're going to end the show talking about the unraveling of the Neo regime in the U.S. Sounds like there's more to this meeting the other day between Sunak and Zelensky. It's seeming now that the UK is figuring out they can't give Ukraine what it needs to be successful on the battlefield. Are they back to their old tricks of running a smear campaign against Russia to rally support for Ukraine? Seems like a bit of a worn-out path, though. Are they ever going to shy away from strategies that no longer work? Rumblings are starting to surface that Sunni will follow the path of Boris and Truss. Not close enough to the situation to have an opinion on it, but I will say that I wouldn't be surprised. You may have heard about this latest attack on the Sevastopol port in Crimea. Russia's air defense shot down 2 drones and 3 UAVs without taking any damage. Somehow this is being reported, though, that Russia's Black Fleet is now in danger of being wiped out. We heard that they have 6 subs in the Black Sea, and that the UK is sending 3 recently retired naval copters to possibly take these subs out. This seems like a disaster waiting to happen for poor, newly trained Ukrainian copter pilots. It's said to be an extremely difficult mission. Wouldn't the Russians just take them out with their fighters? Like I said, I'm not a military expert, but it seems like a mismatch. I guess we'll have to see how this plays out. So here's a shot of this multi-purpose Westling Sea King. Next, let's take a look at Turkey. Turkey teams up with Iran to bombard the Kurds with air assaults and even shelling. Looks like Iran has even sent troops in Iraq. Note that the Kurds are backed by the EU and the US. Oil fields were even attacked. We also had the attack on the oil tanker the other day. Probably something to watch. It's a twisted mess over in Syria and Iraq, so I'm not even going to try to attempt to speculate on what's going on there right now. It just seems quite a bit dangerous. I know Russia's been trying to keep it from erupting into chaos for some time now. They did let Turkey into their controlled airspace for these attacks, though. Were they trading to get free passage into the Black Sea? Seems like it. The U.S. public response has been relatively mild so far on this large-scale attack. Seems like they have their hands full with other more pressing issues. Is Iran and Turkey taking full advantage of this situation? On another front, Turkey continues to push for Ukraine war negotiations. This would be a great thing, and it seems all parties would be better off. We are starting to hear these rumors of crackdown on the Russian Orthodox Church in Kiev. We can only hope this isn't true, as the people have been through far too much already, especially after these latest attacks that ensure cold darkness. Luckily, the much-feared SMB is currently tied up with a little problem in Kherson. It seems that there's no end to the poison gift of Kherson by General Armageddon. Apparently those that were cheering the loudest during Zelensky's recent flag-raising ceremony turned out to be pro-Russian spies. They were allegedly giving away troop positions during the recent heavy shelling of Kherson City. Does the general have any more tricks up his sleeve? Is this the result of Russia recruiting defense volunteers after the annexation? We are hearing of the continuing buildup for a Zaporozhian large-scale push to Crimea. Is the Kiev evacuation underway? Sounds like a large number of missiles landed in the city. Could there be an invasion from the north that's about to happen? We are also continuing to hear about the Polish continuing to mobilize. Did anyone catch wind of the supposed recorded conversation with the Polish leader, saying that he feared going to war with Russia? The story is that he thought he was talking to EU leaders. France and Germany, if I'm not mistaken. Poland has been chomping at the bit to escalate for a while now, so we'll see. Russia has control of the bridge in Mariinka, and it sounds like the situation is about to become just a clearing operation. The Donetsk shelling continues, Will we find that they had some elaborate underworld facilities in the area? Seems like they must, as Russia has been unable to stop the shelling that started in 2014. We are thinking this will finally come to an end, as it seems that the Donetsk frontline continues to crack at an accelerated rate. We are hearing that Ukraine was extremely bogged down during the missile strikes following the Kherson victory. That is, if you're in that court, that Kherson is a victory. I'm thinking it'll be likened to having control of Snake Island in the end. I believe that Snake Island ended with Ukraine sneaking there in the middle of the night and just raising a flag and running. I'm wondering if that's what they should have done in this situation. Belgorod attacks continue as buildups on both sides are continuing at an alarming rate. Ukraine has been shelling the Russian city for months now to stop resupply from Russia. There's been rumblings that Ukraine may try to invade. Let's hope not. It seems that Russia's air force is continuing to play a greater role as the war moves on. Su-25 attack aircraft crews launched missile strikes against military facilities and equipment. There's rumors that they even sent out their propeller-based Tu-95 built in 1959. If that's true, it seems like their air defense is continuing to degrade to the point that Russia is taunting Ukraine and the West. Fresh out of the factory, Su-34 fighter bomber and Su-30 fighters are to enter the conflict in some unknown quantity. Unfortunately, Russia is reporting that they are also bringing out the large flame-throwing systems again. Russia has been careful not to put Ukraine's nuclear power plants in jeopardy of being shut down throughout the war. But it seems now that even that is a target as Russia unleashed another devastating attack. All the Ukrainian nuclear power plants have been shut down. It sounds like it's nearly a total blackout situation across the country. And no, Russia's still not running out of missiles. I'm not sure why the West is so fascinated with that thought. I mean, doesn't it seem like you wouldn't want them to run out of smaller missiles? Do you really want them to have no choice but to use the really big one? I mean, they do have more of those than everyone else, and they are hypersonic, so I don't really follow the logic there. It seems like the West continues to make all these efforts to create certain situations, and then when they get there, they realize they didn't really understand the consequences. It sounds like this oil cap thing is just about dead now too. Musk is helping us out by continuing his Twitter assault on fake news. As a matter of fact, an AP journalist got fired over the whole Polish incident. We're also hearing this uprising on Bill Gates. It was a global warning sent out on the food czar Bill Gates. We're also hearing about this rumor that's been circulating about the Zuck having to step down as CEO. I guess he denied that on Twitter, but maybe he won't have control of that, and we did predict that we're going to continue to hear news bleeding out about Zuckerberg. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and pound that like button. There's going to be a lot more coming. We're just getting started.